I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate 100 episodes than to have a good old-fashioned hot dog night with my good friends. Well, it's time for step 2, having a Sierra grain wave. Very good, brewski. Cheers, guys. Cheers. I appreciate you coming out for 100 episodes, hot dog night right here at the cabin.
We got it, yeah, we got it.
That's right.
It's been a long time.
Oh! Yeah, since last Memorial Day. Let the poop jokes commence.
I like my dogs like I like my women. There you go. Yeah.
It says right on there,
Yeah.
Little lights go. It'll be red every time I point it. Because we think it's funny. We have nothing to do.
Oh, there you go.
He paid the girl the money to go back in the little room, but he never, to this day, hasn't told me what happened.
Well, we're just chilling out by the fire, and I've been wanting to do this for a long time because I've been getting a lot of questions about the In the Bush series. I thought this would be really appropriate, seeing as this is the 100th episode. So we're going to do a little frequently asked questions, a little FAQ here. So we've got a few questions wrote down that a lot of people have asked me over the last couple of years of doing In the Bush, and without further ado, I'm going to answer some of those questions for you. Don, what do you have?
All right, well, we've got plenty of them, and I hope I can read them. But anyway, we're going to start out at the beginning, I guess. What inspired you to make these videos?
So I was in Boy Scouts. If you read the description on my YouTube or Rumble videos, if you read the description under any In the Bush videos, it actually kind of tells the story. I started out, I was in Boy Scouts growing up, but then, you know, after high school and after I got my Eagle Scout, I got away from camping and being outdoors and all that. And actually what sparked the interest for me again was the kind of turmoil that went down with the 2020 election and everything. And I realized that just with how unstable things are in our country and everything, not to get political, but how unstable things are, that I need to become more self-reliant. So I just started packing stuff in. I didn't even have a backpack at the time. I just started stuffing things into a duffel bag and taking them out into the middle of the timber and building a fire and trying to stay warm. It was January of 2021 when I started doing that. And I started just taking pictures with my phone just to document my progress, and pictures turned into videos. Then when I went to upload the videos to my computer, I'm like, I could like edit these up and put out, because I was into like camping videos. I'm a huge Steve Wallace fan. I'm a Greg Ovens fan. You know, I'm into the bushcrafters like Corporal's Corner, Sean Kelly. I dig his videos, and many others that I'm really into. So I was like, hey, I can do a similar thing without just like copying what they're doing. I can do a similar thing. And one thing turned to another, and before you know it, I had compiled them into some episodes, and I put them on my YouTube and my Rumble channel and shared them on Facebook and stuff. And then it became a thing, and everybody that started watching was like, I love it.
The crazy thing is we're 100 episodes into this.
You've been in the bush watcher for a while now.
I've been watching them and commenting
Yeah, pretty
on
much
their
since the
videos,
beginning. Yeah,
throwing my little ghost comments in there, and
That's
my
right.
cottage cheese comments.
that's right.
And speaking of editing the videos, somebody wanted to know, how long of a process is it from taking the raw footage to what we see on YouTube?
So, basic in the bush video, when I upload it on my computer, is about 15 gigabytes worth of video footage, and that gets uploaded to my computer. There's about 40 to 80 clips for every video that I have to put together, and I have to put music behind it, sound effects, whatever I'm doing, voiceovers, whatever. Total for each video, I have probably, it started out, it would take me like a week of editing to get one video. It was ridiculous. And I've shortened that down to about 8 hours. It takes me about an 8-hour day for each In the Bush episode of editing. So
That's incredible.
it's
That's really
So
incredible.
a lot really does
a
go
lot
into here
goes
besides
into it.
just shooting it and go.
Right.
and it's
A lot.
really stupid because I'm not making any money off of it or anything, but
Well, labor of love, right?
I do it for me, not for anybody else, honestly. I do it for myself. It's something that I can look back on, and I can see my progress, and I can look, it's kind of like a photo album, but it's a movie photo album, you
The
know?
thing is, though, we enjoy that. You make it for you,
Yeah.
but we enjoy it. Speaking of 100 episodes, we looking back on all 100 episodes, what's your favorite episode from, or favorites? You might not have
It's
one.
really hard to
but
pick just one episode.
Yeah,
with your
which
favorite.
episodes stand out to you as your best?
There was one, and it's probably, for the people that have seen all the episodes, it's just the mood was right. Like I had a really good time. I enjoyed making the video, and I felt like it was a turning point, like where I went from like just kind of learning some stuff to like, all right, I have some skills now. I'm having some fun with this now. And that was episode number 39, Hibachi in a Van.
Like the all-around basic seasoning. Let's eat some shrimp. Let's eat some shrimp. Let's go, Brandon. Let's eat some shrimp. Let's eat some shrimp.
And there's something about that episode. It's not. It doesn't stand out probably to the normal watcher viewer, but Hibachi in a Van, episode number 39. Check that one out. That still is my favorite one I think that I've ever filmed. That one, and I really like what I did with the covered wagon heading west episode. That one I did a voiceover. I didn't talk at all to the camera. Instead I did a voiceover in the studio at home when I edited it. But so that was kind of a fun one to make.
All right, well, these are educational videos, too, when you make them. What's the most inspiring? What one did you learn the most from? Because we learned something from watching them. And then, but you learned stuff, too. What's the one you've learned the most from?
I would say it's probably a series of videos, but the most like lessons learned videos were definitely right here at the Old Pond location, at the cabin location, before the cabin was here. So I had a bushcraft shelter right behind where the cabin sits now, and that's where I did several episodes, episode 20, 28, and 29, 30. I did episode number 40, the double gull wing shelter. Like I honed my fire skills, and I honed my shelter building skills, my lashing skills. Like that's where I had the most hands-on skill learning in the bush videos was, and that's why part of the reason why I chose the Old Pond location as a place to build my cabin, because that's where it all started, really.
All right, and somebody wanted to know, what's up with this ghost named Cheesy? And what's his deal with cottage cheese? Where did that come from?
Well, if you're an avid In the Bush watcher, you would have seen that I stayed in a haunted house for Halloween a couple years back. Halloween of 2021. I stayed in the old house. There's an old log house on this property that the story is that it was actually built by the Mormons sometime in the mid-1800s. And it is a log cabin, and I found out that night that it is haunted by a thieving ghost that likes to eat cottage cheese. And unfortunately, I don't know if it was because I removed the bed frame from that house and used it in the cabin and other videos, but unfortunately that ghost has been tagging along on my In the Bush outings
And he
ever
stole
since.
our cottage cheese again tonight.
But that is Cheesy. So I named him Cheesy.
Now, you've had a lot of nights out in the bush that haven't been made it to video, but somebody wants to know, what's your worst experience out in the bush? Just where nothing went right. You thought, hey, this shelter is going to be a great idea, and then it just turned out to really suck.
The one that really comes to mind, well, it wasn't a shelter. I was in the pop-up, but I actually got sick overnight and had to go back to the house. And I was metal detecting at the old house, the old haunted house, where we found Cheesy. But I was metal detecting there, and I got so hot, overheated that day. And then it had rained, and I had my blankets and stuff in the vamper, and the air conditioner in the vamper leaked water all over my blankets. And so I crawled into a sopping wet bed that night. Didn't feel good on top of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
that one
that
was-
sounds horrible.
That was just not a fun camp out. I did make really good zucchini fritters, and I couldn't even hardly eat them because I was so sick.
Yeah, I think there's a question like about food, speaking of food, on the list. It's later down the list, but what's your favorite food that you've fixed out here in the bush?
About anything you can think of. One of the things that I like to do is fix things that are not the traditional campfire foods. So it's not always hot dogs and
Right.
s'mores.
We save those
you
for
know.
hot dog night.
Yeah, exactly.
You do the gourmet stuff. when
Yeah,
you're in the bush, right?
I like taking things out into the woods and fixing them that you just wouldn't think of. A meal that stands out in my mind is one of my first bushcrafting experiences. I made shrimp scampi in the woods, and that's where I coined the term, "Who does this?" And I'm like, who makes shrimp scampi in the woods?
Yeah. Who makes shrimp scampi in the woods?
I do.
Nathan. Yeah. If you're in the woods and you want a good shrimp scampi, call Nathan. He'll come up and whip it right up for you. All the different types of shelters that you've built, what's your favorite shelters and what's your least favorite shelters?
Okay, that one is really simple. My favorite shelters are any shelter that you're off of the ground. Any shelter where you're off of the ground is going to be better. You're not going to have the moisture, you're not going to have the bugs, and it's not going to suck all the heat out of your body too, because the ground is a lot bigger than you are, so it'll pull the heat right out of you if the ground's cold. My favorite shelters are the ones where I use garbage bags on two poles to make like a cot. You just cut the bottom out of the garbage bag and you slide it over the pole, and it works just if you use a heavy enough garbage bag. And you can also wrap a tarp around two poles and make a cot that way. It works great. But my favorite shelters are really the simple ones that I did here at the old pond location, like the Gull Wing shelter. Those are just great. You're off the ground, you're dry, it's fairly comfortable. When you lay logs sideways, you got to have a good sleeping pad, because obviously that's pretty uncomfortable, especially around here where all the trees are different sizes and stuff. But when you use like a tarp or garbage bags or whatever, it's like laying on a stretcher. I mean, it's nice.
Okay, and what ones were your least favorite?
As far as quick,
and
shelter.
maybe didn't work out as good. You know, your least favorite.
My
shelter.
least favorite would be like where I was like laying under all this debris and it was falling into my bed and it was getting all over in my blankets and it was like itching me and everything else, and that and if it would have rained, it would have rained straight through that anyway. And it would have and it wasn't over. I know how I need to do it to do it better, but the debris shelters are definitely my least favorite. A debris shelter is more of a if you don't have a tarp with you, you don't have any camping gear with you whatsoever, and you need to create something to keep the weather off of you, then that's when the debris shelter works the best.
And you've done many locations for your In the Bush series, but are there any locations that you would like to do one, that you haven't done one in yet?
I've got several ideas. I'd like to find a good cave to camp in. The problem with the area that we live in here in the Midwest and Southeast Iowa is it's so hot and humid. It's so humid during the summers that it's not really the heat, it's the humidity that's so bad here. And the bugs. The bugs are just absolutely terrible. That's why summertime is really it's vamping season for me. That's when I plug in the air conditioner and I don't rough it quite as much.
Yeah,
during
speaking
the summer.
of the vamper, how did that come about? That van has been through a lot with us and
Yes, it has.
going through TNT years and all that
That's
stuff.
right.
And now it's a vamper.
So
How did you create the vamper, the air conditioner in the back window? That's awesome.
Yeah, I've had that idea for a long time, but I finally, last year, I was like, I'm going to stick an air conditioner in that thing. Or 2 years ago, I guess it was. But the Vamper is my old band van. We traveled the United States in that thing. And I bought it specifically so that if a person needed to sleep in the back or whatever, they could. And it's got TV in it and everything you need. And at some point, a couple of years ago, I'm like, why have I not been using this as a camper? All these years that I had it, I haven't been using it as a camper. And then I realized it makes like the most awesome camper. Like it's freaking great. The only thing I don't have is a bathroom.
Yeah, that's kind of why I
Kitchen, I guess.
my contribution to the vamper is the sign that's on the outside.
That's right.
It says warning fart zone because there's no bathroom in there, so
That's right.
it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it kind of compounds until you got to run to the latrines.
Yeah, compounds. What's your favorite way of starting a fire? I'm not talking about lighter fluid and the lighter, but the bushcrafting way
Sure.
to start a fire.
Well, I'm ashamed to admit I haven't tried it yet, but I'm going to be trying it possibly this week. I'm going to try my first bow drill fire. So I'm going to rub two sticks together and make fire.
I've heard about that.
So that might be my new favorite way, but my favorite way is a ferro rod or a ferrocerium rod. It's great. It's like one step more complicated than a lighter,
Yeah.
And it makes you, when you do it for the first time, you're like, I just made a fire without matches or without a lighter. And ferro rod's just awesome. If I had my choice in a survival situation between a lighter and a ferro rod, I would choose a ferro rod.
All right. Well, the next question is, what do you want your viewers to take away from your videos?
I don't claim to be an expert camper or bushcrafter or anything like that, but the main thing I want people to take away from my videos is that you can get out and have some fun with not a lot of money or equipment or whatever. You just have to use your imagination. And one of the things I was gifted with is a really good imagination. So I'm not here to teach anybody a lot of survival skills, although I do incorporate those into my videos. The main takeaway I want people to get really is entertainment value from it. And I do these videos more for me than I do for other people. I do them so that I can look back on them and cherish the memories and everything. And so if I can help people out along the way, that's just an added plus.
How do you come up with ideas for the videos? How much planning do you do in advance for an episode?
Every time I go out in the bush, I usually come home with about 10 more ideas. For every in the bush episode spawns probably 5 or 6 new ideas, because I see 100 yards away a couple trees and I'm like, I know what kind of shelter I could build there.
So true.
I just have a lot of ideas pop into my head, and I will never run out. I've got a notebook with pages of in the bush ideas, so I could never possibly do every idea that I actually have.
All right. Well, now this one is one that's got a lot of us wondering. What is the step 2?
Bartender, I'll have a step 2. One step 2 coming right up, sir. There you are. Thank you very much, sir. Ooh.
Step 2 is in honor of the great Steve Wallace. Steve Wallace is a very popular, probably the most popular YouTube camper, and he always, I stole that directly from him. I'll admit, it's not because I'm trying to copy him or steal from him. It's because I respect the dude madly. I think he's awesome. And so step 2 is he usually has a beer. Or step 2 is just refreshment. So it's either a beer or might be a soda pop, or it might be just whatever, But that's step 2. It's like step 1 is you get to camp, and you get things set. Then you sit down, and it's time for step 2.
Love
And
it when a
that's-
plan comes together, like Hannibal Smith.
That's right.
He had the cigar, except you've got
Yes.
a beverage.
Well, in a lot of my videos, I do have the cigar.
Oh,
And I do
two.
love
Yeah,
it when a
there you go.
plan comes together.
See?
I love it when a plan comes together.
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 I have a question. It's a random question, but I know you've done ragbri in the past, riding across Iowa on your bike. Did you put some of this, like you said, you're inventive. Did you do a lot of that camping when you rode in that? Some of the ideas that you had out here, or that you've kind of taken away from your experience and using it out here?
So my last ragbri was actually 2019, and I actually didn't start filming in the bush until 2021.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I did. I camped in the Vamper during ragbri 2019. In fact, your son
That's the one where Jonathan was with you, right? He was driving for
he
you.
was our driver for that, and that's kind of when I was like, man, I really need to use this thing as a camper more. Because it worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
We had 2 kegs of beer on tap in the Vamper. I mean, it was awesome. It was all set up.
Well, that's what ragbri really is, an excuse to
It's
drive
a-
across
yes.
Iowa on a bicycle
It's
and drink.
a giant Step 2 festival.
Well, I
Yes.
knew with your background and being inventive, I just didn't know some of the ideas from that kind of led into some of the stuff you're doing now within the bush, you know, or...
I don't know. It's pretty well separate, I would say.
Okay.
It's pretty well separate.
Well, as we sit here by the cabin, what are your future plans for the cabin? Do you have anything special?
My plans for the cabin right now is to get it set on its permanent foundation. That's the ASAP thing that has to be done. Then I plan on tightening it up. I haven't had as much trouble with mice in it, so that's good. But I plan on tightening it up and getting a coat of lacquer on it so that it'll be preserved the way it is. So we'll have a painting the cabin episode. But I'm not actually painting it. It's actually more of a stain. It's like a weather protectant stain. Because I used boards that are very, very weathered off that old dilapidated shed. Check that episode out where I stayed in that shed. I used all those boards for my cabin, so it actually worked out pretty good. But they need to be preserved in the condition that they're in right now. So I plan on doing that. I plan on I got some cool flooring for the cabin, and I've got a lot of ideas in my head, but I'm probably always going to be working on the cabin. One of the big things I want to do is I want to build a deck behind the cabin.
Yeah, because the
kinda
wall
overlooks
used to
the
fold
pond.
down, but that doesn't
Yes.
fold down.
So the wall used to fold down.
was cool.
It doesn't fold down anymore because the weight of the tin from the roof basically pinched the wall closed. So unless I might mess with it a little bit and see if I can still get it to work. But I think I've kind of given up on that idea.
Right, that was kind of cool.
It was.
But speaking of like the mice and bugs getting into the cabin,
Yes.
in the bush, what kind of encounters with bugs, snakes, anything like that? You know, you're sleeping in a sleeping bag on the ground, and here comes.
I've been very lucky so far. I have not had any wildlife encounters or anything like that. And I even put the, thanks to my buddy To the Point, I put, he gave me a time-lapse camera. And I actually point that on me when I'm sleeping in the bush at night. And I haven't seen no deer walk by, no mountain lions, nothing. I did see a really big cat not too long ago, but it had a short tail, so I'm guessing it was a bobcat.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen anything that's bothered me. I had a spider bite once. I could just tell from the 2 fang marks in my skin, but I've never really had any bad. That's one of the things that I do love about this area, other than the ticks and mosquitoes and everything else, jiggers and everything else. I love the fact that like you can walk through the woods here and you're probably not going to get eaten. So that's always good.
Did you ever have a cheesy sighting?
I have had a few hauntings in the bush, and one of them was my hot tent Christmas camping in a hot tent episode. Check that one out. I was visited by the ghost of Bush past, present, and future, and then of course good old cheesy.
So.
Yeah, he's been a regular part of them.
Yeah.
But now people want to know, have you seen Bigfoot? Do you think there are Bigfoot around here? Now we're getting into the real deep questions here.
I will say when you're, and I don't get too worked up about those kind of things, but I will say when you're, not necessarily Bigfoot, but when you hear a rustle in the leaves behind you, when you're deep in the bush and you're just in a clearing and there's not much there, like right behind you, and you hear a rustle, it's usually like a bug or a rabbit or a squirrel or something, but you hear it and you're like, what was that? And you can't help but just be like, and the nights that don't have any moonlight are always a little more scary than the nights where the things are brightly lit by the moon, because you can kind of see what's around you. It's just that unknown. It's like, what was that rustling sound? But so far, no Bigfoot sightings.
Oh, well, there's only a couple more questions left. And on that same line of Bigfoot and that, UFO sightings. You're laying out looking at the sky, and out here you can see more of the sky than we can in town. Have you ever thought you've seen a UFO?
I've seen strange things in the sky, but with everything that's going on now with Starlink and everything else, it's hard to say. I've seen things that are blinking all kinds of different colors, and it could be, probably just a Chinese spy balloon.
That probably is. And one more question, the age-old question: does a bear in the woods? Oh,
yes.
All right. See, in the bush, the only place you find out stuff like that.
Cool. Did we go through them?
Yeah, that's all of them.
Well, those were some frequently asked questions that a lot of people ask me. Thanks, guys, for interviewing me. Now I think it's time for step 3. Well, little did I know that I was going to be making In the Bush episodes still at 100. I didn't know at what point I would give up or call it quits, but 100 episodes, this is something that's stuck. I'm notorious for getting obsessed with new ideas and having new obsessions, and I think some people might have thought that In the Bush was just one of those new obsessions, but I think it's something I'm going to be doing for a long time. So I'd just like to thank everybody that's watched for these last couple of years, all these months that I've been doing it. Yeah, you never would have thought I'd still be doing it. Another thing you would never guess is that I'm not wearing any pants right now. We'll see y'all in the morning.
Good morning. Man, what a perfect camp out to celebrate 100 episodes. Of course I had to do this at the cabin. There's just no other place where I could do this. So yeah, the weather was just absolutely great last night. It got down to 59, 60 degrees. It was just perfect for having the windows open in the cabin, and I still got the windows open this morning, even with the sun out. It's just a beautiful day. There's no humidity. It feels kind of like fall. This kind of weather is few and far in between in southeast Iowa. And when this kind of weather lines up with my camp out plans, that makes me a very happy camper. Alright, well, come on, watch me a little TV while I get ready. Get things packed up. I slept pretty darn good. Sleeping better in the cabin these days.
I've got Christy here, who showed up from Oklahoma, flew up, wants to do some bushcraft. So it kind of limits our opportunities to catch fish or set traps and this and that. But anyway, we'll get down here, see how we...
Wrong way. That's okay.
Well, it's another beautiful day on the farm. This is amazing weather for August. And I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who's been following In the Bush for these 100 episodes. I can't wait to get started on the next 100.